I know it's bright, but before this video begins, I want you guys to fully watch this video or even put it on ×2. As long as you can fully watch before y'all comment what y'all gonna comment. I want you guys to fully watch this video and hear me out on why I think Prydwen ranked Scarlet as they did. So yeah, before y'all go crazy in the comments and stuff like that, just watch the video. That's it.
But I feel like you're still like gonna do great damage against that one boss. Depending on what boss you're fighting, right? Because I don't even think there's that many bosses. I mean, okay, wait. Let me just go to the detailed guide, bro.
So what you just seen was me, I guess, reacting to my own video of me first initially looking at Prydwen's rankings for the Scarlet, right? And in that video, a lot of people are upset, obviously, because Prydwen ranked Scarlet a bit lower than where a lot of people wanted her. Right, and I can understand, right? As a regular player, not necessarily a YouTuber, not a content creator, as a regular player, I understand why the community's mad, right? Everybody and their mother, YouTubers, players, testers, whatever, they're all saying she is the hardest hitting character in the game, if not top 3 hardest hitting characters in the game, right? And then when you look at Prydwen's rankings, right, and Prydwen's a very credible source, right? People are probably like, maybe there's probably that 1, 2, maybe 3 people like, why do people care so much about how Prydwen ranks them? It's just their opinion, right? It's because so far Prydwen has been on like a non-stop killing streak, accuracy streak, right? And I feel like they still are. I don't necessarily disagree with these rankings, right? In my initial video, I actually said that I was disappointed. But after I recorded that video and posted it, right? I had to talk with Ken, and I guess I really understand now how they're going about it. There's a lot of things I've wanted to know about Prydwen, right? And maybe I should get in contact with them, right? I never really find it necessarily to, because I don't necessarily care. But I always wonder how many people, these are the things I wonder about Prydwen. How many people opinions go into these rankings? If it's one person, it's like I will never take one person's word as a law. If it's a classroom full of people, that means there's multiple opinions. Sure. Right. Of course, I'm going to agree. If there's multiple people opinion and multiple there's debates and stuff like that here or there, then I agree. But if it's just one person, I cannot agree. That's just me personally. I will never take one person's word and run with it. Right. If it's multiple people, then sure. 2, what do they consider when they're ranking these things? Now, I already know, obviously. I already have that answer. Right. They actually tell you and stuff like that. But people don't read it. Like, the reality of the situation is people are gonna go to the Prydwen website. They're gonna start off like this, like Goddess of Victory Nikke, go to tier list and immediately scroll down. Ignore everything else, scroll down for their character and look at their rankings and be like, oh my god, this is wrong. Right? That's how everybody's reacting right now. They're just saying this is incorrect because, again, everybody and their mother, testers, YouTubers, regular players who have tested this character herself, are saying that she is the strongest character in the game in terms of damage, if not the very strongest. Actually, Prydwen themselves in their description or their like detailed guide says the exact same thing, right? But then it's like they don't have her in the highest tier. Now, SS tier is not a bad tier. SS tier is the second highest tier, but everybody's going to want the hardest hitting character in Triple S. Now, I'm glad Prydwen won't fold under pressure and just give people the tier or give the character the tier that the community wants, right? They put in facts and calculations and all that stuff behind it. So I'm glad they're not necessarily just, even though they know that everybody's upset right now, they're like, okay, let's just change rankings. Well, at the time of the recording, they haven't done that yet. It's been maybe 2 hours or 3 hours since, multiple YouTubers, including myself, have put out a video looking at this ranking. Discords have seen it, Reddits have seen it, and everybody's like putting in their opinion about it. I'm sure they've seen it by now, hopefully, right? If there's multiple of them, I'm sure one person has seen it by now, right? And they have not changed it. And I'm not expecting them to change it because I do agree with this. I was just probably disappointed at first because, again, I'm the same as everybody else. I've just come here, look at it, then boom, right? They already have a record streak, so it's not like I need their, confirmation and all the reasonings behind it. I just take their word as law, right? I'm gonna be honest. I'm just the same as everybody else, right? So when I personally think this character is the hardest hitting character in the game or top 3 hardest hitting character in the game, and I personally don't see her in Triple S, right? I have no problem telling you guys how I really feel. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it because I'm a YouTuber, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm the same as you guys, right? I'm expecting her to be Triple S just because of the damage, stuff like that. And that's not fair towards Prydwen. That's not fair towards Prydwen, right? If you really think about it, right? If you really think about it, they're absolutely correct. Now here's how I'm gonna break it down in every tier from my own knowledge, right? Not necessarily their knowledge, but my own knowledge. SSS for boss solos is by far the most accurate thing they could have done, obviously, because distributed damage does not matter when it comes to one enemy. The thing about distributed damage is that it takes a certain percentage, in this case 500 and 750%, and splits that number between how much enemies there are. So again, I used this example in the last video. If there's 2 enemies, she's not going to deal 500% of final attack damage to each individual enemy. So 500 and 500. If there's 2 enemies, rather than it being 500 and 500, it's going to be 250 and 250 to a total of 500. That's how distributed damage works. It gets split between the enemies. The final number, which is 750 or 500%, gets split between the amount of enemies there are. So in boss solos, because there's only one enemy, that means they're taking the full 700, they're taking the full 500. It does not matter. When it comes to boss solos with ads, it's understandable, because when ads come in, or when mobs come into the scenes, now the damage is being split between, even though the entire time it was just going to that one regular boss, when mobs end up coming into the screen, right? That's what boss ads are, like bosses with mobs. When they come into the screen, now the damage is being split between the boss and every mod that comes in there. Right. And now the reasoning why story late is S tier is because they are considering hard campaign as well. I think a lot of people don't do hard campaign. I generally think a lot of people don't do hard campaign, and that's the reason why she is in S tier, right? These guys do hard campaign. And they're deep in hard campaign as well. They're in like chapter 20 of hard campaign, maybe whatever the highest chapter is in hard campaign. They're there. So they're considering all that stuff and putting it in here, right? The thing is, in hard campaign, these enemies are tanky. So if she was to do 750% of final attack to all enemies and it was just regular damage, then she would easily be SSS, right? Because that means she's basically doing a burst skill every 9 attacks. And then when you get into a burst skill, it would be every 3 attacks, right? But when you're in a campaign, a hard campaign, and it's very, very hard, right? The hard campaign and these enemies are very, very tanky. Her having distributed damage is not going to help you in any way, because the damage is being split between all the mobs there. If there's 20 different mobs, it's going to be 500 or 750% final attack of damage that is split between 20 different enemies, making it that every individual enemy gets a less and less and less amount. The more enemies, the less she's doing to one individual enemy. Essentially, the less enemies the more enemies there are on the field, the less damage she's doing to one individual enemy. So if there was one enemy, that one enemy would take 750. Let's say 750% equal to 1 million. If there was one enemy, that one enemy would take 1 million damage. If there's 20, that 1 million would be split between 20 different characters, meaning that you still did a total of 1 million, yes, but the damage that one individual enemy is being split between all the other enemies. It's really as simple as that. So when they're considering all that and hard campaign and the distributed damage, it makes a lot of sense why she's in S tier. In early, I feel like in early you could argue that to be triple S. I don't know where their cap is on early. I don't know what they consider early, what they consider late game, but there's no question early, like chapter 1, probably all the way to like chapter 18. She's probably still going to like nuke some of these enemies with the distributed damage. Maybe not all the way up to 18. Maybe that's a reach, but let me know. Right? I don't know where their cap is with the early, but I think that could be argued to be SS. And the same thing goes for PvP, right? Because PvP has a total of 5 enemies, right? It has a total of 5 enemies. It's getting split between 5 different enemies. If you use her burst skill, 3 normal attacks, not only are all this is being, they're all in the same range, right? If it's in PvP, they're all in the same range. So 500% is being split between the 3 enemies or 5 enemies, and then AoE 750 is being split between 5 enemies. I feel like in PvP and in story, early could be argued to be triple S. In boss ads, maybe could be argued, but again, I understand why they have it at SS. And then for S in story late, it's probably the most understandable because of what they consider. Right? It's not necessarily Prydwen's fault that these rankings, it's not that Prydwen has wrong rankings, it's just that people are not coming here and considering all these little things that Prydwen is considering. I'm assuming, right? I've read their detailed guide and stuff like that after I made the video. Some of the wording was weird because it was like, there was a paragraph, for example, right? Let me pull it up. There was a paragraph somewhere here in Boston rating, all this right here, literally all this right here is gassing up the character to be like the hardest hitting character in the game. But then this line here says that she can handle inferior mobs that come with bosses. So all your units can peacefully force hitting the boss. When you say that with all this stuff above here, and you guys can go ahead and read it yourself, right? But when you say all this for Boston ratings and then have this last sentence, and then we come here and we see only double S, when what you just explained was like a triple S character to most people, it's understandable why people would be mad. So it's not necessarily Prydwen's fault. It's just how not everybody understands what Prydwen's going with here, right? I feel like the rankings are fair, right? When you consider all these little things, I feel like it's fair. The higher the campaign, it's going to get harder. Distributed damage is not going to nuke the enemies. She's just doing chip damage, essentially. The higher you go, the more chip damage she's doing. These enemies are very tanky in the hard campaign. And even, well, the current campaign is not there. I don't feel like the current campaign, the normal campaign, chapter 26, I don't feel like that's difficult at all. I don't feel like that's difficult at all. But hard campaign, maybe they should have a tier of hard campaign, right? I know they're not going to do it, but maybe they should have story early, story late, and then hard campaign. I don't know, right? Maybe not, maybe they should. If that makes it easier for everybody to understand, then sure. But that's the main reason why in story late she's S tier. Main reason why in story early, essentially it's the simple fact of the distributed. This word right here, distributed, is what's holding her back from the highest tier in a lot of these tiers. In SS, in PvP, boss adds, early story, what's holding her from being triple S in Prydwen's eyes is the distributed damage, which is understandable. Again, you can argue triple S for PvP, and same thing goes for early story. I personally feel like boss adds, maybe you can argue that as well, because majority of the time the boss is going to be alone. Mobs come in like they're not there the entire time. Mobs come in like at certain intervals, right? So I don't know, but it's understandable why they ranked it like this. So I think people should probably chill out on Prydwen, right? And, Prydwen didn't hit me up because you know what happens? A lot of people are going to be like, oh, Prydwen probably hit this guy up and told him to come correct this. No, they did not. I don't know who works at Prydwen. I don't know who works at Prydwen. I don't have a name. I don't have nothing. I have no knowledge on Prydwen besides that they are usually accurate with their rankings. And this is still very accurate. It's still very accurate, right? Again, it's just people are not coming here for like calculations and all that stuff. That's the reality. That's the truth. It might hurt some of you guys, but the reality of the situation is people are not coming here and considering calculations. They're just going off of the simple fact that everyone knows Prydwen is a very credible source. And then when everybody in the game is basically saying Scarlet's the hardest hitting character, and then your rankings don't reflect that, it's understandable why people would be upset, right? But I do think this is a fair ranking. Hopefully this video helped a lot of you guys understand more of why these rankings are like this. But if not, by all means, if you still want to be upset, by all means, I can't control your feelings. This is just my opinion at the end of the day. You guys let me know what you think. It's your boy Zxous, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out later. Peace.